chapter 4. Judges chapter 4, chapter 5 tells of the deliverance of the children of Israel out of a man named Jabin, king of Canaan. Out of his hand, he was persecuting the children of Israel. They cried out, and God sent a deliverer through Barak and Deborah, the prophetess. And chapter 4 talks about the conflict that arose, the war, the battle that was fought between Sisera, who was Jabin's captain of the host, and Barak, who led God's people. And in the middle of this, story about a conflict for the deliverance of God's people from the persecuting king, we are introduced to a couple of people, Heber, a Kenite, and his wife, Jael. That's a lot of names. I may get some of them mixed up before I'm through with this. Go to verse 17. Let me read this to you. Howbeit Sisera fled away on his feet to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber, the Kenite. For there was peace between Jabin, the king of Hazor, and the house of Heber, the Kenite. And Jael went out to meet Sisera, and said unto him, Turn in, my lord, turn in to me, and fear not. And when he had turned in unto her into the tent, she covered him with a mantle. And he said unto her, Give me, I pray thee, a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. And she opened a bottle of milk, and gave him drink, and covered him. Again he said unto her, Stand in the door of the tent, and it shall be, when any man doth come and inquire of thee, and say, Is there any man here? That thou shalt say, No. Then Jael, Heber's wife, took a nail of the tent, and took a hammer in her hand, and went softly unto him, and smote the nail into his temples, and fastened it to the ground, for he was fast asleep and weary. And so he died. And behold, as Barak pursued Sisera, Jael came out to meet him, and said unto him, Come, and I will shew thee the man whom thou seekest. And when he came into the tent, behold, Sisera lay dead, and the nail was in his temples. Wow, that's an interesting story, isn't it? You Bible readers have heard it and read it before, but that is an interesting story. In this conflict, it's going to take me a little bit to get all the foundation laid here. And I heard it said once before, we don't need a 20 by 40 slab for a 5x8 shed. I understand that, but it's going to take me a little bit of time to get this foundation down, okay? And then I'll give you the 5x8 shed, okay? When we see here this conflict that had come up, God is intending to deliver his people from their persecution, as he always does. And he has this man Barak who is leading the battle. And a great warfare is ensued between Sisera and Barak. They are fighting. And as God would do, the battle goes against Sisera. He is forced to flee. His men are killed. He knows that he's lost the battle. He knows it's over. They've lost their hold on God's people. And he's forced to flee. He flees to the tent of Heber and Jael, because the Bible said that there was a friendship between Sisera's king and Heber. Now, if you study a little bit about who they were, if you look up who they were, that this man was a part of a group that were metal in making things out of metal. That was a trade that very few people had, and so it was in high demand. And when you realize that he had friendship with not only God's people, but also with their enemy, he was making things for both sides of the groups. It's even possible that the weapons that they were using in this battle, that he had made some of these weapons out of the metalworks that he could do. There's a little speculation in what I'm saying, but it does stand to reason. It's a possibility. It's possible that swords on both sides of the battleground was made by the hands of this man right here. And when the battle starts, you can read this in this chapter. When the battle starts, he takes his tent and he sets it up a little distant from everything that's going on. He sets up his household a little bit away from where the battle is taking place. He even moves away from the others that are metal workers with him, separates himself from them, and gets himself over to the side so that he's not directly involved in anything that's going on. This man Heber has connections to both sides of the battle. You understand? And so it is in his best interest to separate himself from what they are doing, to separate himself from the conflict that's going on, because when the battle is over, he's got to make a living somehow. He's got to figure out what he's going to do. Now, they move away to get out of what's taking place here. And in their moving away, they feel like that they have distanced themselves enough that it's not going to have an impact on their overall life. I really think, and of course you can pull me on the carpet for this if you want to, but I really think that he wanted to keep connections with both sides, because if Sisera wins, he can still do weapons for them, and if Barak wins, he can still do metalworks for them as well. It's kind of, I want the best of both sides of what's going on. But in the course of the battle, you understand it, in the course of things, there's no way that it's going to come down to a draw and everything's going to be exactly the way it was. Somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. There's going to be a moment when sides are going to have to be chosen and taken. And in the course of this battle, Sisera realizes he's losing. And so he runs away. And as he's running away, he comes to the tent of Heber the Kenite. And Jael, his wife, is in the tent. Now, Sisera comes up to the door of the tent. And he says, "Let me come in. And if anybody asks you, tell them I'm not here." She knows who he is. She's familiar with him. Okay? She's familiar with him. She knows who he is. But now, the ability to separate herself from the conflict has come to a dramatic halt. A decision is placed in front of her that she cannot avoid. Maybe I'm just teaching a Sunday school lesson. I don't know. A decision is placed here that she can no longer escape from. She couldn't say, "Wait just a minute, I'm going to move my tent way over yonder and then I don't have to deal with this, okay? I'm not going to address this issue. I'm just going to get away from it again." She's done it before. She probably wanted to do it again, but now she has no choice. The decision is placed in front of her. She has to decide, what am I going to do? If she lets Sisera come into the tent, then Barak is going to be against her. If she tells Sisera, "You can't come into the tent," then Sisera is going to be against her. She has to decide, which team am I really on? Yeah. Which team team am I really on? Now, in this battle, in this conflict here, it's a decision that's made here in this little simple moment of her life that's going to change everything from here on out. Because she is faced with this, and she can no longer say, I'm just going to get the best of both sides. I'm going to get benefit from both sides. I feel like this morning that possibly somebody is in the house today and you have been trying to hold on to both sides of the issues. You really enjoy the church. You love the preaching. You love the singing. You love coming and being a part of what God is doing here. You love seeing what God's doing. You love to say, hey, I'm a part of Bethel Chapel, and thank God for that. I want you to know that I can speak for the leadership of this church without worrying that I'm crossing a line. We're glad you're here, and we're glad you feel comfortable to come here. But I want you to know there comes a time in your life when you have to make a decision about which side of the fence you're actually going to remain on, because you can't straddle the line for all of your life. There comes a moment of time when, maybe for a while, that you're okay with just coming here and going back home and living in sin back home and coming back to the church and enjoying the service and going back. It soothes our conscience, if you will. It soothes our conscience, because in our minds we think, as long as I'm a part of what they're doing down at Bethel Chapel, then surely that is my ticket to paradise if something were to terribly happen to me. But I want you to know that in itself is not a ticket to paradise. You have got to come to the place where you decide for yourself, which side of this thing am I going to live my life on? You can't go on forever enjoying what God is doing here and enjoying the pleasures of your sin back home. You must come to grips with the idea that God is standing at the door today and He's making you come to a decision. What am I going to do now? Because I can't keep going like I'm going. Somewhere in my life, I have to make my choice. And it will forever change who I am and what I will be in the future. I've got to make a decision somehow. Well, this is a little heavy for me to just be visiting, isn't it? Now, I want somebody here to know. I want you to know that right now, that God is standing at the doorway. You got to make a decision. Do I accept God? Do I accept His sacrifice? And do I fully commit myself to give everything that I am to be a child of God? Or do I turn and go the ways of sin and go the ways of this world? Do I let myself separate from this? You say, Brother Joey, I'm content. I am happy to just come to the house of God and still live my life as I want to. But my friend, I want to give you warning this morning that you cannot live forever in that frame of mind. You will be faced with a decision, and it could be this morning that God would say to your heart, choose now who you will serve. Choose now. Which side am I really on? Which team am I really working for? Where do I fit in this plan? Sisera came to the door. Jael brought him in. But in her heart she knew he's the wrong side. In her heart she knew this guy is not the one that I need to be acquainted with. But it's God's people. I need to side with the church. I need to make my decision with the people that God is blessing. I need to make the right choice here. And I like this this, it's kind of a strange way that she got this decision to this point. But I like to use this phrase that she finally got it nailed down. She finally got it nailed down. No longer am I going to straddle the fence with this thing. No longer am I going to stand on both sides and hope it works out. No longer am I going to allow myself to have pleasure in both parts. But I'm coming to a decision, and I'm going to nail this decision down. Once she placed the nail against his temple and drove that nail into the ground, it was fixed. It was permanent. She could not change it. She did not want to ever have to go back and wonder. She didn't want to just say, maybe he'll show back up later and I can smooth it out. No, she said, I want to get it nailed down today so that there's no doubt, there's no question mark, there's no going back in my mind. I am fully committed to go the way God wants me to go. I am fully committed. I've reached that point. My decision must be made right now. I don't want to go another day and wonder how it's all going to end up eventually. I don't want to feel the pull of that again. But I'm going to bring it down to this altar, and I'm going to take that hammer and nail in my hand, and I'm going to drive it in deep so that it is nailed down. It is fixed. I don't have to wonder if I want to go back. No, I'm cutting that option off. I'm taking that off the table. It's no longer a desire in my life. I'm going with God's people.
Hallelujah. Praise the Lord.
I feel the Lord this morning. I just wonder if somebody's here this morning, and like Jael, the moment of decisions come to your place. What are you going to do? I don't want anybody to just get up and walk out of the church and say, I'm just never going back to church. That's the wrong decision. That's the wrong choice. But if you're here and that moment of decision has come to you right now, you know what you need to do? You need to commit it fully to God. All that pleasure that you know the church don't approve of that. Really, it's not really what the church approves of. It's really not even what Brother Brim approves of. But you know God doesn't approve of that. You know that God's holy word is against some of the things that you're doing. Some of the things that are in your life, you know His word is against it. You know what you need to do? Gather all those things up. Every one of them. Bring them down here to this altar and nail them to this altar. Nail them so tight you'll never go back and pick them up again. Jael said when the day was done, I'm never going to have to decide between Barak and Sisera again. He is gone for good. You understand? He is gone for good. You need to get it nailed down this morning. Whose side are you going to be on? Time for an altar service. Stand if you don't mind. I don't know how to even give this altar call this morning, really, except to say the altars are open. You're standing here right now this morning. You're making a decision. You're making a decision that will affect the rest of your life. What am I going to do? Who am I going to be with? What's going to be my eternal destination? All of that is decided right now. Which side do you really want to be on? Which way do you want to take your chance with? Because if you're still dabbling in your sin, if you're still playing around with sin, it doesn't matter that you're attending service this morning. That's not going to save you. You got to get that sin on an altar somewhere and let the blood of Jesus cover that sin. And you got to get it under control so that you don't have to deal with it again. You need to make the right choice today. You need to make the right choice today. Which way will you go? Well, why don't you just come right now? If you're here and you feel that tugging in your heart, sometimes we say, my heart gets to beating really fast. And I get the feeling that I need to do something. What is it? I'll tell you what it is. You need to come to this altar. And you need to bring every sin that you have committed right here and place it on this altar. You don't have to tell me about it. You don't even have to tell Brother Brim about it. But you need to come down here and give it to God and say, nail this down with your blood, Lord, so that I don't have to deal with this again. I want to make my choice for God. Why don't you come? Would there be someone that would just step out and come? Would there be someone that would just step out and come? Say, Brother Joy, I know I've been trying to do it both ways, but I know I can't continue in that life. I know I can't continue with that. I want to get it fixed this morning. I want to get it nailed down today. I want to settle it once and for all. Would there be someone else? Would there be someone else? I don't want to tarry too long, but would there be someone else? You say, Brother Joey, I want to get it settled right now. Come on. If you will, come on. If you will, come on. Hallelujah. All right, church, come on in. Let's come pray. Let's come pray. If you're wrestling a decision in your mind, come with the church and nail this thing down. Settle it once and for all. Settle it once and for all.